Yavajivamidam lingam sarirana vyojayet. Skanda Purana ordains that once lingam is taken from the guru and installed on the body, i.e. after lingadharana, should not be removed from the body throughout his entire life. Gachantistan swapnan jagranmunisha nimishanapi isuchirvapiya suchirvapi lingam sharvatra dharayat. While walking or standing or sleeping or awake, with eyes open or closed, in a clean state or unclean state, lingam should be worn on the body at all times. Mahabharatam. Sadvrutamapi vijnaya lingine chetarayacha deyamahud maharaja ubhavetu tapasvina. In Mahabharata, Dharmaraja was advised by Vedic scholars that, given Tapasvin and Lingadhari, both are equally well versed in all Shastras, as Lingadhari is more qualified to receive gifts from the king first than the other scholar who is a Tapasvin. The same view was also expressed in Shiva Rahasya Kandam in Skanda Purana. Thus, Lingadharana is eulogized as a vidhi, or necessary act of a mokshardi, or seeker of salvation, in all Puranas and Itihasas. Again, the Srutis, while ordaining Lingadharana, have not stated the result of doing the act, because the act is not a kamya karma, while all other acts are kamya karmas, or actions done expecting the fruits thereof. Similarly, for doing sadhyavandanam or gayatri japam, also phalasiddhi, i.e. fruit of the actions done, is not mentioned. Therefore, the shivarchana done daily through lingadharana is a nityavidhi, and there cannot be any doubt about this. Because it is called mukti prayojanam, it is a must and should be performed daily. Atharva Sirupanishad. Vratametat pasupatam tatsamachare mumukshurna punarbhavaya. One who is interested in coming out of the cycle of births and deaths, called mumukshu, has to perform this Pashupata Vratam, says this Atharva Sirupanishad mantra. Shankara Samhita. Linganga sangino vatsa punarjanma navidyate yuga pajnana siddhisyat tato moksha mavapnuyat. This Shankara Samhita sloka says that one on whose body lingadharana wears, there is no punarjanma or rebirth for him. He gets jnana at the same time when he is getting moksha. It may be noted here that the Sruta Shaiva Siddhanta does not accept the dictum Janadevato Kaivalyam, propounded by Adi Shankaracharya, because all are eligible for moksha through lingadharana. Renunciation of wife, family, and children is not a precondition either for lingadharana or for getting moksha. All Maharishis were leading family lives and doing lingarchana, and none deserted their wives or children to get salvation. Skanda Purana. Brahma Vishwadayo Deva Munayo Gautamadaya Darayanti Sadalingam Uttamam Ge Visheshataha. Skanda Purana says that Brahma and Vishnu, among other devas or celestial gods, and Gautama and other among Maharishis always wear the linga on their heads with reverence. Linga Purana. Kasyapatri Badar Vaja Gautamadya Maharishiyaha Darayanti Sadalingam Uttamange Videshataha Narayanopi Bhagavan Deva Brahmadayo Anagam Darayanti Uttamangeshu Shivalingam Anamamayam Lakshmi Saraswati Mukya Spakiritordva Desake Dwarayanti apramadena lingam tribhuvaneshwaram. Linga Purana says that Maharishis Kashyap, Atri, Bharadvaj, Gautama, and others wear the linga on their heads. Lord Narayana, Brahma, and other celestial gods also wear the linga on their heads. Goddess Lakshmi, Sarasvati, and other goddesses wear the linga, Lord of the three worlds, on the top of their crowns. Skanda Purana, Shankara Samhita. Urastale harir lingam drutva murdva pitamaha lingastamam samaradya swam padam vapatu malingamastakuyenge drutva shakrapugramaha Devamam linga madhyastam sampujya swaha padam yam yuhu Lakshmi Saraswati mukya devyo malinga madarat Drutvani jangetilina bhava jagmuhu param shukam. In Skanda Purana Shankar Samhita, it is stated that Vishnu, wearing the linga on his breast, and Brahma, wearing on his head, worshipped Shiva in Linga Purana, in Linga Rupa, and obtained their positions in heaven. Similarly, Indra and other celestial gods wearing the linga on the head and other places of their bodies worshipped Shiva in Linga Rupa and obtained their positions in heaven. So also Lakshmi, Sarasvati, and other goddesses wearing the linga on their heads and worshipping Shiva with their mind fully concentrated in the linga obtained heavenly bliss. Siddhanta Gama. Lakshmyadi Sanktaya Sharva Shiva Bhakti Vibhavitaha Dharayantyalikagreshu Shivalinga Maharnisham. Siddhanta Gama says that Lakshmi and other goddesses with radiance, warmth, and devotion to Shiva are wearing Shiva Linga on their phalabhagams, i.e. on their faces day and night. This shows that all great men and women are wearing linga and performing lingacharana or Shambhava Puja daily. Kalagni Rudrapanishad. Vratam itat shambhavam tatsam acharen mumukshu apunar bhavaya. Kalagni Rudrapanishad says that the Lingadharana is also called Pashupata Vratam, and by performing which one does not get rebirth and attain salvation. Thus, from the above authoritative pronouncements, Vedic respectability is unassailable for Lingadharana. Chapter 6. Lingachana or Linga Puja Prasasti. In the next two slokas, the author is explaining the importance of Lingacharana or Shiva Linga Puja. Sloka 16. Vihit tatvatsruti smrutyo sreshtatva pratimarchataha kalpeshu puraneshu gaditvascha sadaram. Sloka 17. Nityatvan mukti mulatva sharva shishta drutatvataha vaidikai pratyaham karyam trikalam linga pujanam. Since it is ordained by the Vedas and Upanishads, and also stated extensively in the Kalpa Sutras and Puranas, Linga Pujanam, or worshipping the Linga, is to be done daily. Linga Pujanam is the only gateway for salvation, and performed by all learned men in the past, 3 times a day. It should be done by all for attaining salvation. There is no other easy way mentioned anywhere in the Hindu scriptures for getting salvation, except by performing lingacharana. This is possible only by wearing the linga on the body of the person and not otherwise. Lingas installed in houses or temples are common property of the persons living around, and the karta cannot have access to them at the right time, as ordained by the Vedas to perform lingacharana. Brihajabalapanishad. Nityam trisadyam shivalingam abhyarchyayam. Brihajabalopanishad clearly stated that Shivalinga should be worshipped 3 times daily. Similarly, it was mentioned at various places in the Satapada and other smrutis. Instead of worshipping Shiva in idol form, it is better to do worship in linga form, and this is possible only by wearing the linga on the body of the person and not otherwise. Bharatam Anusanika Parvam Janmakarma tapoyo gastayo stavacha pushkalaha tabyam lingerchito devas straya archayam yuge yuge. In Bharatam Anusanika Parvam, Ashwadama, a great archer and warrior and son of the great teacher in archery, Dronacharya, was defeated by Arjuna in the great Mahabharata war. Vedavyasa tells Ashwadama the reason for his defeat in war as due to his worshipping Shiva in idol form, while Arjuna and Krishna worshipped in linga form from era to era in their earlier births, and therefore he did not defeat them in the war. Therefore, worshipping Shiva in linga form is superior to all forms of worship. Bodhiyanakalpa Sutra. Adato Mahadevasya Harasa Paryavidhim Vyakyasvyamaha. In Bodhiyanakalpa Sutra, it is clearly stated that Shiva Lingacharana is a daily ritual. Nindikeshvara Purana. Ekaha marjaya lingam tasya punyam tatodikam sakrut pujayat Yastu Bhagavanta Aptim Tasya Aswamedavadikam Phalam Bhavati Bhuvara. It is said in Nandikeshvara Purana that whoever performs Lingacharana once, the fruits of his action, or punyam, is more than one gets by donating a lakh of milk-yielding cows to a Vedic scholar. In Skanda and other Puranas, worshipping of Shiva daily in linga form is stated at many places. Skanda Puranam Shiva Rahasya Kandam 1. Bunjinesha Chanamapya Krutva Bunjita Chet Papa Mayancha Bunshter Naradamo Somunibisa Ukta Naraki Vikritmik Bokshaha. It is stated in Skanda Purana, Shiva Rahasya Kandam, that one should not take food without first performing Lingacharana, and whoever eats food without performing Lingacharana is cursed by Maharishis to hell and only eating worms and insects. 2. Isana Bojyamanam Kit Tamalam Tatkunapam Vadanti Bahishkruta Sharvajanaisha Papi Goran Prayayanarakkan Samstan. It is also stated that food taken without performing Shiva Puja is equivalent to eating insects, excreta, and corpses, and the person so taking is banished by all as a sinner and goes to hell. 3. Vanipraveshovaramugраstatryadovaram sadumalasya bhuktihi isharchanayam viratirvarista samsara shakare brahmato navadye. It is better to jump into the fire or die by arrows or knives or eat excreta for a person entangled in the cycle of births and deaths on this earth than neglecting and performing Shiva Puja at least once in his lifetime. 4. Apipranadam prapya natyajam linga pujanam. Even if there is risk to life awaiting, Lingacharana should not be neglected. Sutta Samhita 1. Asara samsara vanantarale tritapa garme brahmat janasya shivarchana kalpata purasta samrar santapa harinachanya. It is stated in Sutta Samhita that for a householder roaming in the midst of a dry family life, like living in a forest in summer and exposed to the three types of difficulties, or tapatriyam, called adidalvika, adhyatmika, and adibautika, or three types of quest for seeking favors from celestial gods. 1. The quest for nirvana or salvation, i.e., the adhyatmika quest. 2. The quest for happiness in this life and other lives by seeking the favors of the celestial gods, i.e., Adidavika quest. 3. The quest for keeping good health in this birth, i.e., Adibautikam. Only Shivadharana alone is like a cool breeze to relieve him from all these three tapams or quests and the heat of his summer life and nothing else. 2. Bhaktyaya Shiva Marchayed Anudinam Linge Samapnotihi Nadananam Tapasvam Trivishtapa Mahatir Daplutinam Phalam Papanyasu Vinyasya Shankara Ganasrestyam Samapnotya Savijnanat Parihutya Mahamakilam Jnanam Param Gacchati. It is also stated that whoever is worshipping Shiva with single-minded devotion daily, he alone is getting the fruits of all dhanams or donations made at auspicious times, of all prayers, of all the heavenly Ganga and other tirthasnana phalams. He is getting all his sins washed off early and is coming nearer to God. He is getting rid of all his ignorance and acquiring Shivajnanam, or recognition of the highest order. Bharatam Anushasnanika Parvam Yasha Brahmacha Vishnuscha Tvancha Shakrasha Amrahi Archayadve Sadalingam Tasmat Sreshta Tamahikaha. In Bharatam Anushanikam Parvam, Mahendra was told by Devarishis, O Indra, who is superior to Shiva worshipped in Lingarupa by Brahma, Vishnu, yourself, and all other celestial gods always. Thus, since Lingacharana is performed daily by all great men and scholars, it is a ritual to be performed 3 times a day. Skanda Purana Shivatattva Sudhanidhi Brahma Vishnu Mahendrascha Lokapalascha Devata Vidyadhara Guyascha Gandharvascha Pikim Nara Rakshasa Danavadaitya Vashistadhyaya Maharishyaha Lingarchanam Prakurvanti Sadakalam Jodhamma Lingarchana Ratayete Manusheshutu Kakanda. In Skanda Purana Shivatma Sudhanidhi, it is stated that Lingacharana is done daily by Brahma, Vishnu, Mahendra, and Astadikpalakas, or the 8 celestial gods, namely Indra, Agni, Yama, Niruti, Varuna, Maruti, or Vayu, Kubera and Ishana, and other celestial gods like Vidyadharanas, Guyakas, Gandharvas, Rakashas, Danavas, Datyas, demons of the netherworld, and Vashista and other Maharishis. While all these persons are deeply immersed in performing Linga Puja, what about performing Linga Puja by human beings? Therefore, even if those not following the Vedas are not daily performing Lingacharana, it is essential to be performed daily by those following the Vedas. The author in this regard asked the readers to go through his book Sistasharve Shivam Prapana, a book written by him extolling that all great scholars are only devotees of Shiva by surrendering to him absolutely. Sloka 18. Smruti Tantra Puraneshva Bhadyatva Pari Varnanat. Dehavasana paryantam asauchipi natatyajet. Since Lingacharana is described as a nityavidi or daily observance, it should not be neglected even in times of asaucham or periods of uncleanliness, such as deaths or births, etc., in the family, and should be performed daily through one's lifetime without interruption. Parashara Smruti. Shaivam devarchanam yasya chagni parigraha brahmachari yatinancha sararenasti suttakam. Whoever is observing and performing Shiva Puja daily, whoever is doing Sruta Agni Upasana, or worshipping the god of the fire daily, as stated in the Vedas, he does not get the asaucham or disqualification for performing Deva Pujas, like brahmacharis and yatis who renounce the world. Siddhanta Gamam. Lingarjana Ratinari Sutta Keva Rajaswala Raviragni Yadavahuyu Koti Koti Guna Suchihi. It is stated in Siddhantagama Shastram that a woman who does daily lingacharana, even if she has given birth to a child or in monthly period, she is millions of times as pure as the sun, or Agni and Vayu, wind god, and is entitled to do Shiva Puja daily. There is no asaucham for her in performing Shiva Puja. Shiva Puranam. Jatake mrutake vapi nat Yajam Shiva Pujanam. The Shiva Purana sloka says that Shiva Puja should not be ignored even if a person is under the disqualification of some close relation taking birth or dying in his family. Therefore it is established that Jatasucham or Mrutasucham do not come in the way for performing Shiva Lingacharana. Rudrakshadaranat padam ardam vaibhutidaranat tripadam mantra japyacha pujaya purna bhaktiman pachakshari japedaiva sharvasiddhim labinaraha. It is also stated that one gets 1/4 fruits of his action by wearing Rudraksha, half also by wearing Vibhuti, and 3/4 also by doing Panchakshari mantra japam, and full by performing Lingacharana to the linga worn on his body. Sloka 19. Vihitattvascha vedeshu purandishu sharvasaha karma samsiddhikaritvan mangalya padakatvatahi vimukti falakatavagha nityatva sista sammate shaiva shadaksharo nityam japyasya srutivartmanatai. It is ordained by all Vedas that the 6-letter great Mahamantram, the first among Shaptakoti Mahamantras or 7 crore Mahamantras, i.e. Shaiva Shadakshari Mahamantram, Om Namah Shivaya, is fit for being chanted by all Vedic scholars because of its efficacy in conferring on the person all benevolence and God's grace, or Mangalyam. Again, Shaiva Shadaksharam, daily chanted, is considered as Tarakam, or having power for redeeming a person from the cycles of births and deaths and giving salvation. The author is now proceeding to give authoritative quotations from the various scriptures in support of this statement. Yajurveda Mantram. Tanama ityo upasita. The Yajurveda Mantram says that Brahman or Shiva should be chanted with salutations Namaha in the beginning and also in the end. We see in Rudradyam, Vedapurush is trembling while pronouncing God's name, adding Namaha before and afterwards, prostrating before Shiva. Namaste Rudraman Yava Utotai Shave Namaha. Brihajabalopanishad. Om mitihya grevya viharenama iti paschatat Shiva yet aksharatrayam. It is stated in Brihajavala that God's name should be pronounced first as Om, and then Nama, and then the three letters Shivaya. So it is clearly ordained as to how the God's name Om Namah Shivaya has to be chanted daily. Rigveda mantra. Namo birgrunimasithvesham rudrasya namaha. This Rigveda mantra clearly says, let us pronounce the name of Rudra with Namaha. Skanda Purana, Brahmottarakandam. 1. Agastyaram Adibrihadruta. 2. Tvadomushya mantrasya vadikatvat. 3. Parasya tatvasya vachakatvan. 4. Namah Shivayeti sada japadvam. It is stated in Skanda Purana, Brahmottarakandam, that sage Agastya Maharishi and king of Ayodhya Sri Ram and others have chanted the Saiva Shatakshari mantram, as it is extensively stated in the Vedas. It is Vaidikam and another name for absolute reality. Namah Shivaya mantra has to be chanted daily. Shiva Tattva Sudhanidhi. Namnosti Yavati Shaktihi Papanir Arne Dvijatatvat Papani Kartumya Ashaktaha Kovakalo Yoge. It is stated in Shivatattva Sudhanidhi that addressing a devotee, the Guru says that Panchakshari mantra has unlimited power to wash off all sins, adding that there is no such person who can commit such sins in this Kali Yuga, meaning that Panchakshari mantra is most powerful and can wash off all sins. Harivamsham. 1. Basvatripundram basitae sitasan malnijataval kalavan mukundaha nirantaram chetasi chandrachudam vichintayan panchajay jajapavarnan. It is stated in Harivamsam that Sri Krishna, glowing with bhasma, applied all over his body, observing silence with long trusses of hair falling on his body, and wearing clothes made of tree bark, continuously chanted Panchakshari mantram and prayed to Shiva. 2. Karma samsiddhi kardvat Panchakshari mantraha. It is stated that Panchakshari mantram is acclaimed as one granting all the desired results. Shruti mantra. Yadasya karma notyari rikcham yadvarnyuna mihakaram agnista tvistakrit vidvan sharvam spitsam suhutam karotu me. This Shruti mantra ordains that Shivanama Smaran, or chanting of Panchakshari alone, will set right all shortcomings in performing homam and offering of food in fire to please the Almighty in yagna. Again, yagna or homam is performed to please Shiva. It is also called Rudra homam, and Svistakrik Agni in this mantra means Rudra. Therefore, Rudranamasmarana or Panchakshari Japam is essential in all yagnas, because it is only Shiva who is worshipped in all yagnas. Every Hindu knows the fate of yagna performed by Daksha Prajapati without Ishvara being worshipped, and how it was destroyed to the extent of Daksha himself losing his head. The efficacy and greatness of Panchakshari mantra is again stated in this Shruti mantra. Another Yajurveda mantra also says that Svitstakrut is Rudra, and there cannot be a yagna without Rudra being worshipped. It is stated in Mantra Shastra that the letters Sha will grant all good or benevolence, while the letter Va will grant eternal life. The mantra thus formed with these two letters, or Bijaksharams, Shiva, is considered to bestow all happiness to the devotee who chants these two letters. Vayusamhita. Attavananta kalyana gunaika nidhirisvaraha Shiva ityuchute sabbihi Shiva tatvarda kovidai. In the Vayusamhita, it is stated by all Shaivite scholars that the Lord granting immense happiness to his devotees is only Shiva. Jabalapanishad. Attahainam brahmacharena uchuhu kim japyena umrut tatvano bruhisa hovacha yajnavalkyaha saturudreyaneti amrutasyaha nammadeyani yeterava amrutobhavati. In Jabalapanishad, the disciples of Yajnavalkya asked him to tell them as to how they can get amrutatvam, or freedom from death. Yajnavalkya tells them emphatically that by chanting Rudrajam, or popularly known as Namakachammakam, only can one get freedom from death, because Rudrajam alone contains the names of the Lord Shiva, who is Amruta, or one who has no death. By worshipping one who has no death only, one gets Amrutvam, or freedom from the cycle of births and deaths, and not otherwise. Shivanamam is stated in Atharvashika as Tataram, and Rudrayam as Namastaraya, and in the Jabalapanishad as Tarakam. Therefore, the entire Vedanta philosophy stresses the point that Shivanamam alone is Tarakam, or capable of conferring salvation. Atharvana Samhita, 11th Kanda, 1st Anuvakam. This Samhita contains kandams or Puranas in which the 5th, 6th, and 7th paras contain 31 mantras, also called Rudra Samhita. And this 17th mantra in Rudra Samhita says, Sahasraksham atipasyam purastat rudramasyantam bahudavipaschivam nuparamarjimha yeyamanam. This mantra says that Shivanam has to be chanted daily and uninterruptedly, as Shiva is the only one who has unlimited eyes to see everything in this universe, one who can appropriate or assume everything in this universe, and one who knows everything and goes by the name of Sharvajna. The Amarakosham says, Sharvanjo Durjatir Nilalohitaha. Panchakshari mantra is chanted daily by all learned Vedic scholars. Skandapuma Brahmottara Kandam says that Agastya and Sri Ram chanted Panchakshari. Harivamsham say this Sri Krishna chanted Panchakshari, praying Shiva for 66,000 years in his original form as Narayana. In Bharatam, Anusanika, Charasirsha, Valmiki, Jamadagni, Vishwamitra, Devala, Krishnamada, and many other scholars daily chanted Panchakshari. Chapter 7. Bilva Prasasti, or the greatness of worshipping Shiva with Bilva Patra. Sloka 21. Amnatatvacha nigame nityatvan mukti krutvatatthai Bilva Patra Samarcham Shivalingam Anaratam. After explaining the greatness and efficacy of chanting of the Panchakshari mantra in redeeming a person of his sins and conferring salvation or mukti or moksha from the mundane world, the author is proceeding to explain the greatness of worshipping the linga with bilwa leaves, which are considered dearer to Shiva. The bilwa tree is also called Lakshmi Vruksham. Shruti Mantra. Trisuparnamaya chitam brahmanari yadat yat ye brahmana trisuparnam tatani tesomam prapunatvanti. Bilva Patra consists of 3 leaves joined together and is supposed to have been enriched by the goddess Lakshmi, or the goddess of wealth. Such a leaf, free from insects and unbroken, is fit for worshipping the linga. Whoever is praying Shiva with bilwa leaf placed on the Shiva linga are blessed by Shiva with his consort Uma, says the Sruti mantra. Va'adityo jatato bilva udatistat This Shruti mantra says that Bilwa is born from the place where the sun god is born. It is also called a Purusvruksham, or man tree, directly sprouting a shoot without a flower budding out first, defying the law of creation. Shiva Tattva Sudanidhi. Yonak kruyat bilva dalayir archanam shankarasyatu satyayuhu puryushova pitasya janma niradakam. Whoever does not worship Shiva in Linga Rupa with a bilwa leaf placed on the linga, his life is a waste even if he is 100 years old. Bilva patra vihinasa nishpalam. Any worship without bilwa leaves is a waste and does not bestow results or fruits of worship. Bilva patrachana mukti krutvataha. Worshipping Shiva with bilva leaves gives mukti or salvation. Bahujamarjitaha punyar bilva patrachanam labhet bilva patrachanam krutva punarjanma bhagbavet sushkahai paryushitarvyapinanya bilva dalyarapi ipujaya girijanadam muchyate sharva Patakahi satyam satyam bilva patrachananama param bilva patrachanenaiva punurjanmana vidyate. A person gets a chance in this life to worship Shiva Linga with bilva patram only by virtue of or the results of his good deeds done by him or punyam acquired in various earlier births. Whoever does worship Shivalinga with bilwa patrams does not get rebirth. The person is absolved of all his sins if he worships Shiva in Linga Rupa with bilwa patrams, dry or old leaves. Bilwa patrachana is the greatest form of worship, and there is no rebirth for such a person performing lingachana with bilwa patrams. The author concludes that Shivalinga Pudra with bilwa leaves is a must for all persons. Chapter 8. Things offered first to Shiva alone should be consumed or enjoyed. Sloka 22. Rudra pitam pibetitya disrutte sasanat param asamarpityasya garhyatva amyojatva vidyanantaha. Sloka 23. Adikshita parat vedanisheda giramapi nirmalyasya naheyatvam kimtva diksha vatambavet. Sloka 24. Chandadikaravatyeva lingetasya nishedataha tada abhavascha Panado nirmalyam shiva mastikai. 1. The Sruti says that all things in this universe are from Shiva. They should be first offered to Shiva before they are enjoyed or consumed. Food not offered to Shiva is considered as soiled and unfit to be eaten. 2. Again, those Shruti mantras calling upon not to take the food offered to Shiva, i.e. Shiva Nirmalyam, apply only to those who have not worn linga on their body or adikshitas, or one who have not taken Shiva Diksha. Shiva Dikshitas have a right to partake the Shiva Nirmalyam, or food offered to Shiva. 3. Since food offered to Shiva is considered pure and sacred, and Chandi, one of the greatest and trusted devotees of Shiva, has a right over that sacred food, because as a boon granted by Shiva himself to Chandi, the ban that Shiva Nirmalyam should not be taken applies only to those who have not taken Shiva Diksha. However, in other Shiva temples, wherever Chandi Vigraham is not installed, all Shiva devotees, even though they have not taken Shiva Diksha, can partake of that food offered to Shiva. The author is now giving authoritative quotations from the sacred scriptures. Shruti Mantra. Rudra Bhuktam Bunjita Rudra Pitam Pibet Rudra Gratam Jigret. This Shruti mantra says that food consumed by Shiva only should be eaten, sacred water consumed by Shiva only should be taken, the fragrance of the flowers which were offered to Shiva only should be inhaled. This mantra clearly says that whatever is offered in the service of Shiva can only be partaken. Kamikagamam. Patram pushpam phalam troyamanapandatam Anapananyam aushadam anivedyanabunjita bhagavantam sadashivam. Kamikagamam, one of the 28 Agama Shastras, states clearly any leaf, flower, fruit, water, food, and other consumables, and even medicine not offered to Shiva should not be taken. Shiva Puranam. Shambho nirmalyakam sudambunjayat sharvoto dvijaha anyadevasya nirmalyam bhuktva chandrayanam charet. It is stated in Shiva Punaram that food offered to Shiva is considered pure and sacred and can be taken by all the twice born, i.e. Dvijas, or those who have taken Gayatri Mantra, because by Gayatri Mantra, Bharga or Shiva is worshipped. Those partaking the food offered to other deities have to observe Chandrayana Vratam as Prayachitam. Chandrayana Vratam consists in increasing or decreasing the food intake according to the moon's cycle of increasing or decreasing rays of light every day for a period of 15 days, each total 30 days. The sloka stresses the point that food offered to Shiva is pure and sacred and should be taken, and food offered to other deities is impure and not to be taken by Shaivites. Kamika Agamam. Balingadarin nolokedeshikavat parayana mandikasaranesteshu bojyamnaya nanya jantushu. This Kamikagamam sloka says that those wearing the Shiva Linga and those devoted to Shiva alone are fit to partake of the food offered to Shiva and not others. Shiva Puranam. Nirmalyam nirmalam shuddham nirmalatvad aniditamitasmat abodjam nirmalya asuddayir asivatmakai jimhachapalya samuktaha Shiva samskara vajitaha Shiva nirmlaya bodjichedruravam narakam rajati. Shiva Puranam says that Shiva Nirmalyam is pure and sacred, and because it is pure, it is noteworthy that it cannot be eaten by impure persons. A person who is not a follower of Shaiva customs stated earlier, namely Bhasmadharana, Rudrakshadharana, Lingadharana, if all or any of them eats Shiva Nirmalyam, he will fall in a hell called Ruravam. In regard to the ban on taking Shiva Nirmalyam, it is clear that the ban is against persons who have no faith in Shiva and not on others. Siddhanta Gamam. Chandi Shandi Krutayir Yatrana Sevethadarpitam. Siddhanta says that where Chandi is installed in a Shiva temple, he gets authority over the food offered to Shiva, and an impure person cannot partake of food offered to Shiva. Banalinge charelo heratnalinge svayambhuvihi pratmushucha sharvasu nachando adikruto bhaveti. Siddhanta Gamam further clearly says that there is no authority for Chandisha over food offered to Shiva Linga made of stone and worn on the body, on linga made of diamond, or on Svayambhu lingams, like the 12 Jyoti lingams in India. Chandisha also has no authority on food offered to Shiva in idol form, i.e. other than linga form. Therefore, Chandisha has no authority on food offered to Charalingi, or a person wearing a linga, and such food offered can be partaken. Chapter 9. The Greatness of Shiva, Shiva Lingarchana, and Shaiva Siddhanta. Sloka 25. Shiva Bhavavat muktistat janmanyeva labhataha shivayeva tu samsevyo muktikamerka anaratmi. The author says that those having Shiva Bhakti will get salvation in this birth itself. Therefore, seekers of mukti should always worship Shiva, and the author is giving quotations from the scriptures in support thereof. Shiva Puranam. Anyabhavastyoho martyasopi janmatrayat param Shiva bhavastuyo martyatasmin janma nimuchyate. In Shiva Puranam, it is stated that a person worshipping other deities may get salvation after 3 births, while in Shaivam one gets mukti or salvation in this birth itself. Sloka 26. Yadacharma vadityadi srutyanyam samupasatam muktera labhatas chapi shivashevyo mumukshubihi. The author is quoting the Svatasvara Upanishad mantras in the sloka quoted earlier, stating that there is no mukti without knowing Shiva, and stresses the point that for salvation, Shiva alone has to be worshipped. Svatashvatara Upanishad mantra. Yadacharma vadakasham vesta ishyanti manava tada Shiva ma vijnaya dukastyanto bhavishyati. Sloka 27. Bhavam bhavyaya shevanti abhavaya bhavetaram shivaya shiva marchante asivaya shivetaram. The author in this sloka says that those having devotion towards Shiva are only worshipping Shiva and not others. Shiva also means Mangala, or virtue, and therefore the virtuous are worshipping Shiva and not others, and says that this meaning is well justified. Another mantra says, Anika janma samsakarnam shive bhakti pajayate. One gets Shiva Bhakti only after a number of births. Sloka 28. Yasham shadishwaro devaseswaraste prakririta yeshantu neswaro devaha kaditaste nariswara. To whomsoever Ishvara or Shiva is God, they are called Seswaras, and to whomsoever Ishvara is not God, they are called Nireshwaras. The author is right in so saying emphatically because they are so called in the Vedas and Upanishads, etc., at various places and occasions. This meaning can be better understood even in the various customs and traditions followed in this country from times immemorial. These are briefly explained below for an understanding of this sloka better by the reader. 1. For grahasanti, or satisfying the planets occupying inauspicious places in one's horoscope, only Rudrabhishekam is done to please Shiva, but not abhishekams to Brahma, Vishnu, or other deities. 2. For getting rid of the Brahmahatya dosham, only Shivalinga Partista is done. The Shivalinga installed by Lord Sri Ram, king of Mithila in Tretya Yugam at Rameshwaram on the southern tip of India is a standing example for this even now. 3. Under the head of performing 7 good deeds, or saptasantanams, for any human being in one earthly life, the installation of Shivalinga and construction of Shivalayam is only stated. 4. At the time of Aksharabhasyam, or initiating the boy into study, before teaching him the letters A to Z, only Shiva Panchakshari is given by his father, Om Namah Shivaya Siddham Namaha. 5. At the time of Upanayanam, or initiating the boy into Gayatri Diksha, the boy is given Panchasikas, Ajnadarana, or wearing deerskin, and a begging bowl, all of them relating to and associated with Shiva only. 6. At the time of marriage, the bridegroom goes on Kasi Yatra, but not on Sri Ranga Yatra or Tirupati Yatra. 7. At the time of performing ceremonies after one's death, Vrishusharjana, relating to Nandi, or the bull of Shiva, identified as Dhammavatara, or the second Shambho, is performed, but not Garuda Sarjana. 8. It is a famous saying, Kasyantu Maranan Muktihi, or one who dies in Kashi gets mukti, but not at other places. 9. For the children affected by Grahapida, or planetary influence, Bhasmadharana is done, but not Srichurnam. 10. Sannyasis, or Yatyasramastas, are wearing bhasma and rudraksha beads relating to Shiva, but not Srichurmam or other beads. After a sannyasi gets siddhi, i.e. after his death, linga pratishta is done on his samadhi. 12. Before starting any work or deed, or any good thing, Ganadipati Puja relating to Shiva Kumar, son of Shiva, is only performed. 13. At the time of marriage, Rukmini performed only Gauri Puja, and till today all brides perform Gauri Puja only before marriage takes place. 14. After marriage, women of all castes and creeds are only performing Savitri and Gauri Vratams. 15. In all of the 18 Advaita Pitams established by Adi Shankaracharya, and only Chandramauliswara Ardhana is done daily. 16. Vadams, or philosophical discourses, are famous as Ishwarams or Nirishwarams, but not near Vishnu or near Brahma Vadams. 17. The popular sayings Ishvara, Maheshwara, Mahadeva speak of only Shiva and none else. Thus all the customs and traditions are identified with Seshwara or Shiva alone. Sloka 29. Brahmanamanadevam brahmanam samupasate kalahinastu sevante kulahinam narasura. All human beings in this world who have realized the Brahman are worshipping Shiva, the Brahman. Others who have not realized the Brahman are worshipping other deities who are not Brahman. This is explained further in the following authoritative quotations. Shruti Mantra. Tvam deveshu brahmano asya aham manushyeshu brahmano vai brahmanam upadavati upatvadava. This Shruti mantra says that Shiva is Brahman among celestial gods, and I am Brahman among human beings, and therefore it is but right that Brahman worships Brahman. Shiva Puranam. Brahmano Bhagavan Rudraha Kshitriyo Paramoharihi Pitamahastu Vaisya Sadrushalastu Purandara. This Shiva Purana mantram says that Bhagavan Rudra is Brahman, Hari is Kshatriya, Pitamaha or Brahmamaji is Vyasya, and Indra is Sudra. This Shiva Purana mantra, coupled with the Shruti mantra above, reads that Brahmins should worship Shiva alone, and by not so worshipping, the other deity whom he is worshipping also does not grant boons, and in support thereof. The author is quoting the following Veda mantram. Shruti mantra. Yo Vaisvam Devatamate Yajate Prasvai Devatai Chaivate Naparam Prapnote Papiyan Bhavati. This Shruti mantra ordains that whoever is not worshipping his Kula Devata, or customary deity ordained as per the wishes of his ancestors, starting from his great-grandfather, he is falling down from the grace of that deity and becoming a sinner. The other deity whom he is worshipping presently also does not approach him for fear of being thrown out by him at any time. The other deity naturally feels that this person who has no confidence in his Kula Devata, or deity worshipped by his ancestors for a long time, is afraid to come near him, as he may leave this deity also, like his Kula Devata. Kula Devata was already neglected, and so will not grant him boons. The person thus gets last both ways, and becomes a sinner beyond redemption. This is the view of the Vedas, and this sloka should be an eye-opener for many to correct themselves. Sloka 30. Janmamrutyu pahanaya janmamrutyu harashivaha ajata iti tamsrutya sevyo bhavati nityada. For relief or salvation from the cycle of births and deaths, Shiva, who alone has neither birth nor death, has to be worshipped daily, as Shiva is ajata, or not born, says the Vedas. So many Shruti Vachanams say that all Bhutams are born from Shiva, and Shiva is not born. Shruti Mantra. Bhutasya jataha patireka asit jato bohana bipati trutiyam. The above Shruti mantra says that Brahmaji, or the creator of this mundane world, takes birth, so also Vishnu, the protector. Since these deities cannot get rid of their own cycles of births and deaths, how can they get rid of other cycles of births and deaths? That is why the earlier Shruti mantra says in unequivocal terms that Shiva alone has to be worshipped for salvation, and none else. Shruti mantra. Anjata ityevam kaschit biruhu prapadyate rudrayate dakshinam mukam tenam pahi nityam. This Shruti mantra says that one who is afraid of the cycle of births and deaths is praying to Shiva's south face called Agoramukam. O Shiva, let your Dakshina Mukham, or south face, protect me always. The Akora mantra mentioned by the Shruti is one of the 5 mantras called Panchabrahma mantras, eulogizing the greatness of Shiva, and chanted daily at the time of Shiva Lingarchana by all Shiva Bhaktas. This Shruti mantra makes it clear that those who are afraid of the cycle of births and deaths have to worship Shiva alone and none else. Sloka 31. Shivantu nasamam bruya devair yanekadapi vasamam bruvan sanishkarya shastra chodita vatmanai. The author further says that Shiva should never be stated as equal with other celestial deities. Whoever so states is liable to do prayaschitam, or penitence, as stated in the scriptures, for having committed sin, because Shruti clearly says, Nasamascha adhika, briascha drusyate. Svetashvatara Vakyam, 6th chapter, 8th para, in Svetashvatara Upanishad, meaning, there is none equal or above Shiva in the hierarchy of gods. Sutta Samhita. 1. Chedadvaita masritya bidala pratimanaraha rudrena samyamanyasham pravadanti vimohita. Sutta Samhita states that some persons are confused by following Advaita philosophy and are dazed like a cat on the wall and invoke other celestial deities as equal with Shiva. 2. Kadyotoya nichandabano sadrushaha sturyohari shambona. Sruta Samhita has clearly negated the statement that Hari or Vishnu is equal to Shiva or Shambho, dismissing the view by stating more emphatically that it may happen if a nightingale becomes equal to the noonday sun, so there is none in the celestial hierarchy who is equal or above Shiva. Shiva Puranam. Yemam Brahma dibistulyam yetvam lakshmiyadi laktibi gurum ye prakrute stulyam samsmaratya alpabudyaha buddhaya tesham papani vinasyanti shivaratri prajagarat. In Shiva Puranam it is stated by Shiva himself that whoever is considering Shiva as equal with Brahmaji, the creator, Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, Adishakti or Parvati, his consort, and his guru or teacher as equal with other persons, they are committing sins, and their sins will be wiped out only by staying awake all through the night chanting Shivanamam, or Mahashivaratri day, which falls in the month of Magh, Krishna Paksh, Chaturdasi, as per the moon calendar. Therefore, Shivaratri Jagaranam is ordained as penitence only for all those who treat Shiva as equal with other celestial deities. Sloka 32. Gayatri Pranavadaye Yajne Chadikrutanara Tadbodhyam te tu sevante anadikara yutanavai. The author stresses a point in this sloka that whoever is authorized to chant Gayatri Mahamantra, Pranavam, or Om, offering to the god of fire and performing Yagnam are only worshipping Shiva, because Shiva alone is invoked by all those four mantras and ceremonies, and whoever has no authority to perform these four acts cannot worship Shiva. That is why it is said, Yajnovai akarmana anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. All actions bind a man except while performing Yagnam, where Shiva is worshipped. Again, sannyasis who have no right to perform any ceremonies can perform Yagnam because of their authority to chant Om, and in Yajnam only Shiva is worshipped. Again, it is but fair that those who have authority to worship Bharga through Gayatri Mahamantra, Bhargo Devesya Mahi, have only the authority to perform Yajnam. Amarakosham says Bharga means Shiva, Bharga, Triambaka, Tripurantaka. Patanjali Yoga Shastram. Klesha karma vipakasai viparamrusta purusha vishesha eshvaraha. It is stated in Patanjali Yoga Shastram, an authority on yoga, that Ishvara is above. All mundane sufferings and the results of all actions are not bound by this earthly time or karma. He is called Om. Shiva Puranam. Pranavo vachakastasya shivasya paramatmanaha. Shiva Puranam states that Pranavam or Om is the name of Shiva, and therefore those having authority to chant Pranavam have to worship Shiva alone. Sruti Mantra. Tvamagne rudraha rudrova yeshadagnihi. This Shruti mantra addresses Agni, or the god of fire, as Rudra, and Rudra as Agni, and therefore it is but fair that those having Nityagni, or authority to offer ghee to the god of fire, burning uninterruptedly throughout, have to worship Shiva alone. There are still some Nityagnihotris in this sacred country, in whose houses the three sacred fires, Tretagni, burn throughout, day and night. These three Agnis are 1. Garapatyam, 2. Ahaviniam, and 3. Dakinagni. 2. Avaraja Samadvarasya Rudram. This Shruti mantra says that Rudra is the king of the Yajna. 3. I am Somahakapardine. This Shruti mantra says that the Yagnam is performed to please Rudra with his consort Uma, i.e. Soma. 4. Gada Patim Meda Patim Rudram. The Shruti mantra says that Rudra is the ultimate receiver of all Yagna phalams, where pashus or animals are offered. 5. Imam Pashum Pashupate Dadya Badnami. This Shruti mantra says that, O Shiva, this animal is tied for offering, the same to you in Yagna. Therefore, all those who have authority to perform Yagna have to worship Shiva alone, who is called Pashupati. Sloka 33. Vidyanadasya karunamayasmin vidyeta purnasahi vidya shiva mayit asminetarasmin kadachana. The author in this sloka emphatically says that he alone possesses Shiva Jnanam abundantly, on whom Shiva's grace falls, and on whom his grace does not fall, will not get Shiva Jnanam at any time. The author is proceeding to give authoritative quotations. Shruti mantra. Eshana Sharva Vidyanam Eshvara Sharva Bhuttanam Brahma Dipati Brahmano Adipati Brahma Shiva Me Astu Sada Shivam. This Shruti mantra says that Shiva is Vidyanatha, or the embodiment, or the king of all education or instruction, the king of all Bhuttas, the king of the creator Brahma and the Brahmanas. So Shaiva Siddhanta is the essence of all Vidyas or education. Kathapanishad, 2nd Vali, 23rd Sloka. Nayamatma pravachanina na labhyaha na medyaha na bahuna srutena yamevaishya vrunetete na labhyaha stastasya atma vivrunite tanugum svam. This Kathopanishad mantra is very emphatic in telling that this Paramatman, or Shiva, cannot be obtained by listening to the Vedas, or through discussions, or by understanding the meanings of the Veda mantras repeatedly. He only understands God, on whom Shiva's grace falls. The underlying idea is that one should become a Shambhava Dikshita, thereby acquiring lifelong Shivatvam and Yavajiva Shivardhana, and worship Shiva Lingam in Lingarupa, and await for his grace. Bharatam Anusasanika Parvam Sahiyalabha Prasadasya Bhaktir Bhavati Shankare. In Bharatam Anusanika Parvam, it is stated that only with Shankara's grace one gets devoted to Shiva and not otherwise. Therefore, with the grace of the Lord of all Vidyas, or Vidyanatha only, one gets Vidya or education. Brahma Shambhuritikata Stadakto Brahmana Smrutihi Abhakta Brahmini Shiveyetat Brahmana Smrutaha. The author further stresses the meaning of Brahman, saying Brahma means Shambho because he is Brahmadipati, Brahmanoadidipatir, Brahman Shivome Astu Sadashivam. So the bhaktas or devotees of that Brahma are called Brahmans, and it is therefore but fair that these Brahmans worship Brahma or Shiva alone. Whoever is not having bhakti or Brahma are called Abrahmans. Shruti mantras. 1. Yekayeva rudronaditvaya tahaste. 2. Yekameva ditvayam Brahma. 3. Brahmadipati Brahmano Dipavir Brahma Shiva me astu Sadashivam. 4. Adato Brahma Jijnasa. In all the above Shruti mantras, the word Brahma and Rudra are used as synonymous with Shiva. Bharatam. 1. Mulam Krishna Brahmacha Brahmanascha Kamicha Gamam. 2. Shiva Prasistam Kuruvita Shiva Diksha Parayanaha Lingadarana Dikaiva Shiva Dikshati Kadyate. In Bharatam, the word Brahma is referred to as synonymous with Shiva by Vedavyasa. Therefore, since Brahma means Shiva, the word Brahma used in Adato Brahma Jijnasa, etc., at various places in Brahma Sutrams are synonymous with Shiva. This inference also confirms that the bhaktas of Brahma are Brahmans. And other Abrahmans, it is stated in Karnichagamam and Makotagmam and Shivarahasya Kandam that one who has taken Lingadharana Diksha alone is authorized to do Linga Pratisha and others not. Chapter 10. Greatness of Shaiva Siddhanta explained in detail. Sloka 35. Pradamam gadit vakcha sharva vidya samadvayat vimukti lamba mulat vachaivam tatvika muchate. The author in this sloka is eulogizing Shaivam on 3 counts. A. Firstly, for being stated first among the 6 religions prevalent in the time when Madhvacharya popularly known as Sri Vidyaranya, wrote his commentary on Parashara Smriti, called Parashara Madhyavyam. B. Secondly, for its interpretation in unison with what is contained in the Vedas, Upanishads, Samhitas, Dharmashastras, Kalpashastras, Puranas, Itihasas, etc., without any contradiction or rejection of some portions of the Veda Vangmayam as non-authentic, unlike in other philosophies, and C. Thirdly, for it alone is capable of giving mukti or moksha, or salvation from the cycle of births and deaths. For these three reasons, Shaivam is considered as the real or genuine religion, or truth itself. This therefore calls for a brief discussion below of the various religious philosophies at the relevant places for the reader to understand. A. Firstly, it may be stated that in ancient times there was no divisions of the Bharatiya Samskruti into 6 religions or sects, and it was only one way of life, discussed by various philosophers as the Hindu way of life. As years passed by, the Yuga Kartakali entered after Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga, roughly 5,098 years ago, counted from 1998 Christian era. The influence of Kali, the Yuga Purush, started increasing on the minds of the people, and naturally differences arose among them, and these 6 religions, Shaivam, Vaishnavam, Shaktam, Sauravam, Ganapatyam, and Kamaram or Skandam came into being. Sri Vidyaranya Swami, in his commentary on Parashara Smriti, stated, Shaivam Vaisnavam Shaktam Sauram Ganapatam Tadaskandancha Bhakti Margasya Darsanani Sadevahi. According to Sri Vidyananda Swami, these 6 religions started first with Shaivam and followed by Vaishnavam, Shaktam, Sauravam, Ganapatyam, and Skandam, prevalent at that time, are following the devotional path through which one can realize God. These are also called Shaddarashanams. Those following Shaivam consider Shiva as the ultimate reality, or Brahman, or the root cause of this universe. In Vaishnavam, Vishnu; in Shaktam, Shakti, or Shiva's consort; in Ganyapatam, Ganapati, the prime person among Shaiva Ganas, or followers, and considered as Shiva's son; in Skandam, Skanda, or Kumaraswamy, also Shiva's son through Shakti. It is generally stated that the span of Kali era, or Yuga, is about 4,32,000 years, and that Dwapara 8,64,000 years, Treta 12,96,000 years, and Krita 17,28,000 years. So it can be imagined that only what is stated in the Vedas was followed in letter and spirit all these years. This was the Bharatiya Samskriti that was in vogue all these years before the advent of the Kali Yuga, and before the springing up of these 6 religions in the name of Darshanams, or paths to realization of that ultimate reality. Adi Shankaracharya was born at this time, 509 to 477 BC, when divisions in Bharatiya Samskriti started. This is clear from Shankar Vijayam, or Anandagiri. The great seer, with his erudite scholarship of the Shastras, brought together the followers of these 6 religions and established a new philosophy called Advaita philosophy, and also a new form of worship called Panchayatanam, whereby the 5 celestial gods representing the 5 religions, Shaivam, Vaishnavam, Shaktam, Sauravam, Ganapatyam, were selected, excluding Kamaram or Skanda, whose followers were less in number. This is also clear from the commentary of Madhvacharya to Parashara Smriti. This sloka reads, Adityam Ambikam Vishnum Ganandam Maheshwaram. The followers of all the above 5 religions who were fighting among themselves were told to worship the gods of their choice, keeping their favorite idol in the center and the others around. This shows that Shaivam, Vaishnavam, etc. are ancient, and Panchayatanam, a later development, a compromise formula or a shortcut for Panchayati, which has no Vedic sanction. Now let us consider the attributes of Brahman. The attributes of Brahman are stated in this sloka. Sharvajnata truptir ananda bodhaha svantarata nityam alupta shaktihi ananta shaktischa vibhur vidijna shaddahu rangani maheshvarasya. These extraordinary characteristics of God, who is only one, as stated in Brahma Sutras, like Ekameva Brahma na dvitiyayataste, are 1. Sharvajnatvam, or knowing everything, 2. Trupti, or contentment, 3. Anadibodha, or eternal knowledge from the beginning, unaffected by time and space, 4. Svatantrata, or independence, 5. Nityalupta Shakti, or power or energy possessed, not diminishing at any point of time in the past, in the present, or in the future for any reason, and 6. Ananta Shakti, or unlimited power. These characteristics or attributes of Brahman are accepted by the followers of all these 6 religions, irrespective of their approach to define the ultimate reality. In the hierarchy of celestial gods, only Shiva possesses the above 6 characteristics, and none else. The presiding deities of the 6 religions referred to above belong to one family of Shiva, or Shaiva Kutumbam. Shakti is Shiva's consort. Vishnu is described in the Vedas as her Amsa, or incarnation. Ganapati and Kumaraswamy are Shiva's sons, and will not get kingship as long as Shiva is there, and Surya, or the sun god, is described in the Vedas as one of the 8 incarnations of Shiva, called Astamurti. So it is but natural that Shaivam is the oldest religion, and correctly mentioned first by Madhvacharya in his commentary to Parashara Smriti. B. Secondly, it is stated by the author in this 35th sloka that Sharvavidya Shamnavayam is only in Shaivam and not in other religions or philosophies. Sharvavidya Samanvayam means interpreting what is stated in all the Vedas, Upanishads, Samhitas, Dharmashastra, Puranas, Itihasas, and Agama Shastras in unison and without contradiction of what is stated in any of those Shastras put together. This is possible only in Shaiva Siddhanta and not in other Siddhantas. Naturally, one would ask as to what is the greatness of this Shaiva Siddhanta. If you ask a Vaishnavite his authoritative text on the Vaishnavite philosophy, he will immediately say that all Vedas, Puranas, and Dharmashastras are authority on Vaishnavism. If you ask a Shaivite, he will also say the same thing. But if you ask a Vaishnavite a second question, are all the Vedas authority for you? He will say, except Rudradhyayam in Yajurveda, all others are authoritative. If you ask him a third question, are all the Puranas authoritative for you? He will say, except Shiva Puranam, all others are authoritative. Now if you ask a Smarta, or one who professes Adi Shankaracharya's Advaita philosophy, as to what are his authoritative texts, he will also immediately say that all Vedas, Puranas, and Dharmashastras are authority on the subject of Advaita philosophy. But if you ask him a second question, are the Agama Shastras authority for you? He will not give a reply and will keep mum, because Advaitins cannot say that Agama Shastras are not authoritative. If they venture to say that Agama Shastras are authoritative, then the third question, that why they have not taken Shaiva Mahadiksha, mentioned extensively in Agama Shastras like Chandrajnanam, Karanam, and Karanataram, they have no answer. They cannot say that Agama Shastras are not authoritative, because Vidyaranya and other Shaiva scholars on whom they rely heavily have considered Agama Shastras as authoritative and are equal to Vedas in all respects. Again, it may be seen that any Veda mantra taken by anyone other than a Shaivite as authoritative is examined in detail. It ultimately favors only Shaiva Siddhanta. For example, the Savitri mantra, taken as authoritative by almost all persons of all faiths in this country, the Bhagapadam was interpreted by Shaivites following various authorities, including the Amarakosham and Nigantu, Bhargatriambaka, Tripurantaka as Shiva, but by the Vaishnavites as Vishnu, and by the Advaitis as Tejas or light. Shaivites have given a straightforward interpretation to Gayatri Mantram, stating that they are praying Bharga or Shiva, who is igniting or illuminating their buddhi or intelligence. So the person on whom they are concentrating and the person whom they are worshipping is one person, i.e. Shiva. The Advaitis have removed the Bhargapadam and interpret it as Tejas or light, thereby changing the linga or gender from the pullinga to napumshukalinga, i.e. masculine gender to neuter gender, and again, instead of giving a direct meaning that they are worshipping God, gave an indirect interpretation that they are worshipping not God, but his light. In so saying, they are meditating on one and worshipping on another, which has no life, or achitanam, neuter gender, spoiling the mantra ratha itself. Even the Gayatri Dhyana Sloka is interpreted by them ignoring the asadharana lakshanams, i.e. abnormal features of 3 eyes, moon on the head, 5 faces with matching colors, with which Shiva is associated, identified and extolled in the Vedas, and with which no one else could be identified for millions of years to come. One can decorate or change gold ornaments on the body of a person, or change shankha or conch, chakra or wheel, but not 3 eyes and 5 faces with moon on the head, identified as Shiva. Again, some persons interpreted the Veda Vangamayam, dividing it into 2 parts as Sattvikam and Tamasam, i.e. pure and impure, or good and bad, thereby giving color to the Vedas and accepting some portions of the Vedas as authoritative and some as not authoritative. By so interpreting the Vedas, there cannot be a worse tribute paid to that great sage Vedavyasa, who is praised and worshipped for dividing the Vedas and handing them over to us for easy understanding by all. Again, one important significance in Shaiva Siddhanta is that even all the customs and ceremonies adopted therein are in tune with the commentary on Vedic literature and are considered as moksha-pradams, i.e. leading to salvation. This is not so in regard to other commentaries on the Vedic literature by the followers of other Siddhantas or philosophies. This calls for a little discussion on the greatness of the Shaiva Siddhanta vis-a-vis the other Siddhantas for the readers to understand. In ancient times, almost all the kings were having their teachers who were Maharishis or great Shaivite scholars, chanting Panchakshari mantra 21,600 times daily, and worshipping Shiva 6 times daily, called Shaktakala Shiva Puja. This is only possible by wearing the linga on their body and worshipping and not otherwise. They are called Lokagurus or Aradhyas, meaning fit to be worshipped by all, and were all grihastas or householders only. For that matter, no celestial god or Maharishi or any Vedic scholar in ancient times were ever reported to have left their consorts and taken to sannyas. Chandrajnana Agamam ordains that gurus should be grihasta only. Chandrajnana Shivagamam Guru Gruhasta Eva Chavana Prastanto Yatinancha Gurutvam Nishpalam Bhavet. Guru should be a householder or grihasta only. In those days, only Shaivite scholars, leading grihashrama dharmam, were extolling their shishyas or devotees to salvation, and we do not find any matadipadis or sannyasis coming to their rescue, as is the case today. The following Shruti mantram says, Tadvijnanardam sagurumeva adikachyet samipanisrotriyam brahmanistram. This Shruti mantra ordains that in order to know Brahma Vidya or Brahma Jnanam, the Shishya or the taught or the devotee with samins or fuel sticks in his hand should approach the Guru or teacher who is a Srotriya or follower of the Vedas and also a Brahmanista, meaning one who has authority to perform Agnihotra Dhyanustanam, or authority to offer ghee to Agni or god of fire in a yagnam, and who meditates on God. This shows that a guru can only be a grihasta or householder performing karmakanda. Otherwise, carrying of samins or fuel sticks by the shishya to the guru will be a waste, and this Shruti mantra loses its meaning. If the guru is not a grihasta and is a sannyasi, he should not even cook his own food, and the fuel sticks are of no use to him. Because Guru is a grihasta doing agnikarya, Shruti says that Shishya should take samins to his Guru. If the Guru himself is not a sannyasi, how can the Shishya become one? On the other hand, the Guru, a grihasta, asks the Shishya to first become a sannyasi and then come to him saying, Sannyasya Sravanam Kuryat. The Shishya will question how he got Brahma Vidya without taking sannyas. Therefore, it is not correct to say that taking sannyasam is a must for knowing Brahma Vidya. Then one would ask why Adi Shankaracharya stated this. There is a reason. At the time Adi Shankaracharya started preaching Siddhanta, there existed terrible differences between Shaivites, Vaishnavites, and other fighting among themselves about Brahma Tattvam, where it is one or two, where it is Shiva or Keshava, where it is Sagunam or Nirgunam, etc. Shankaracharya stated that Brahmatattvam is one, and in so saying, he was absolutely correct to that extent. Yekayeva rudrona dvitityayataste. While the nama and rupams, or names and figures, are imaginary or kalpitam, the seeker alone is Brahman. Therefore he stated that to know that he is Brahman is moksha or salvation. It is not attained by worshipping either Shiva or Keshava. Because of his erudite scholarship of the Shastras, people liked this philosophy, and a great number of them already following Shaiva, Vaishnava, and other philosophies embraced this Advaita philosophy, and the differences have subsided. This is the greatness of Shankaracharya. In fact, it has to be stated at the outset that in order to understand the Brahmatattvam, one has to refer to the Vedas, Upanishads, and in particular the Brahma Sutras, written by the great sage Vedavyasi. Since these Brahma Sutras were in Sanskrita, and as ages passed by, ordinary persons could not comprehend their meaning, commentaries came to be written. The earliest and the oldest commentary in this regard is the one written by Nilakantacharya circa 2044 Kali era, before Adi Shankaracharya was born. For this Nilakanta Bhasyam, the author Mudigonda Nagalinga Sastri Guru wrote a detailed commentary in Sanskrita under the title Shivachintamani Prabha. In this book, the author stated the Saiva Siddhanta extensively via other Siddhantas, and for a detailed study, the reader is advised to go through this book in Sanskrita. The author of his wisdom, for the benefit of those who cannot go through this commentary on Nilakanta Bhasyam in its entirety, has written this book, Saiva Siddhanta in brief. This Saiva Sutra Bhasyam, written by Sri Nagalinga Shastri Guru in Sanskrita, was translated elaborately into Telugu recently by Vidyabhusana Sahitya Ratna Shaiva Vangamaya Vyadyaksha, Professor Nirmala Shankara Shastri Guru, Secunderabad, Andhra Pradesh. The interested persons may write to him and get the Telugu version. The author of Sri Nagalinga Shastri's other works on the subject of Saiva Siddhanta are Brahmapadam, Vedapadam, Vyasapadam, Vidyastana Vinirnayam, Vedantartha Parikshara, Taraharam, all in Sanskrita may be referred to. His book titled Matavinoda Charcha in Telugu is a discussion on Shaiva, Vaishnava, and Advaita philosophies, eulogizing the greatness of Shaiva Siddhanta over other Siddhantas, and dispelling the view that Shankaracharya's Bhashyam is the first one before others. He stated that Shankara Bhashyam is neither the first one, nor is it adhering to the Brahma Sutras on various aspects of the Siddhanta. Out of about 545 Brahma Sutras, the commentary given by Nilakantacharya and followed by the author, a few of them are only briefly stated below. Janmadas yayataha ikshiterna sabdam. In this first Brahma Sutram, it is stated that Jagat, Janma, Jivana, Karakatram is Brahma Lakshanam, meaning the attribute for the person responsible for creation and sustenance of this universe is otherwise called Brahman. And the second sutram says that creation of the universe can be done only by a person having life, or chitanam, and not by a lifeless person, or achitanam. Whereas in Shankara Bhashyam, it is stated that this creation or universe is midya, or jagat midya, or illusion. Again, even if it is assumed that Jagat is midya, like a rope imagined as a serpent, then the thing which is imagined need not be one with life. In that case, it goes against the second sutra cited above, that a person having life only can be karta of this universe.